everyone, and welcome to the Paper Plane Cocktail Hour. I'm one of your hosts, Amy Lowenberg, Relations and Partnership Development Manager at New York Now. As a past buyer, I surrounded myself with everything paper and home goods oriented, from literally everything to paper to cement, and I continue to do so to this day. I treasure the relationships I have established, and I relish in the new ones I make every day, sharing information and introducing our amazing community of retailers, buyers, artists, and makers through my Spotlight podcast at New York Now and my store tours on Instagram.
And I'm your host, Sarah. You may know me as the founding editor and editor-in-chief of Stationery Trends magazine, my site, The Paper Nerd, or possibly my other podcast, The Paper Fold. I have been covering the stationery and gift industry since 1998, but never did I imagine that I'd one day be covering the market here in the virtual space.
So throughout 2021, we'll be raising our glasses alongside our pencils as we compare notes and celebrate three of our all-time favorite topics: stationery, connection, and cocktails.
Cheers!
Cheers!
So before we get into this month's fabulous guests, Amy, I have a question for you since you're actually out and about in stores. Have you found any good stationery lately?
Well, I love getting re-immersed in stationery and reconnecting with some familiar lines and learning of the new ones. Over this past month, I picked up a few goodies. While I was holiday shopping, I scooped up a sweet little 3x4 letterpress thank you card set by Imogen Owen while in Cursive, New York. Imogen has exhibited with both the Stationery Show and New York Now, so I did recognize her. She's UK based, and she actually uses a traditional 1940s Autovic letterpress. It's a perfect thank you note in a lovely scripted font with craft paper envelopes, and I already know a few people I want to send them to. So how about you, Sarah? How did your holiday card sending and receiving shake out?
Very well. I wanted to say I love Imogen Owen. She was one of the great booths last year at the physical New York Now, and she does that real mod British thing, very colorful and vivid, and I love her stuff. Mm-hmm. So as for my holiday card sending and receiving, it's been an interesting year. I typically get a lot of holiday cards, both from industry contacts and friends and family. And I'm thinking of this holiday card sending season as the gift that just keeps on giving, because it seems like almost every day, several Christmas cards show up, several holiday cards, several Hanukkah cards even, and it's great. Hopefully I'll be getting them for a while. Our mail has been affected, and it's a serious issue, not to, minimize those people who are waiting for medications and, essential items, but I'm very fortunate that I can take this lighthearted approach and wonder, who am I going to hear? Whose holiday card am I going to get today? I'm hoping that I'm going to be receiving them through March.
Absolutely.
And as for my holiday cards, we send out New Year's cards every year. I ordered my stamps quite some time back. They got delayed. I ended up having to send out our cards without the stamps I ordered. And wouldn't you know it, right after I got all our cards out, the stamps showed up, and they're incredible. We got the forever stamps of the post office murals, and there's like vintage, it's like vintage fairgrounds, like Ferris wheels and that kind of stuff. And I cannot wait to use these beautiful stamps on all my stationery that I'm going to be sending out all year. So it played out pretty well. But enough about me and my stamps and my cards. Who are we having for drinks today?
I'm so excited. Our guests today are Jocelyn and Roland Kirouac of Ümlaut, Brooklyn. They've been exhibitors and friends of New York Now going way back. They're currently on the New York Now 365 digital market, and you can see their vintage style for very modern people products. Sarah, why don't you tell our listeners more about their entertaining and witty company?
Well, Ümlaut Brooklyn greeting cards are instantly identifiable, both visually and verbally. Their cards have a completely outrageous sense of humor. This is not a range for the faint of heart. And the messaging just serves as an unexpected counterpoint to their signature visuals. And once you sort of see their style, it's very, very easy to recognize. It's very distinctive. Most of their designs update vintage photographs with engaging layouts and very modern verbiage for like a laugh out loud, striking effect. Everything is informed by Jocelyn and Roland's motivation to enhance connections between people with laughter and style. They use sustainable materials whenever possible, and everything is produced domestically. Ümlaut Brooklyn is sold throughout the United States and Canada and distributed in Australia and New Zealand, but everything is designed by them in Brooklyn, New York.
What exactly is an umlaut?
The word umlaut actually comes from one of the brothers Grimm. Jacob Grimm was not only a collector of fairy tales, but also one of the most famous linguists in history. Who knew? In 1819, he described a sound change process that affected the historical development of German. He called it umlaut, from around, and laut, sound. And for some reason, they loved it. And there you have it. Now, Amy, what should our listeners know about Jocelyn and Roland themselves before we bring them on?
Absolutely. Okay. Well, back in 2013, Jocelyn and Roland's day job was running Brooklyn Artery, a cozy gift shop in Brooklyn that specializes in handmade goods. Keeping enough cards in stock was a constant problem, and they saw a space in the industry that they could step into and an aesthetic and style that they knew would sell. After previous careers working in design, dance, marketing, film, and the stationery industry, they had an inspired moment and decided it was time to start their own line of cards. Beginning with only 20 cards, their line has now grown to over 400 designs that also includes additional items like journals, magnets, gifts, and bottle bags, and more. And Brooklyn Artery, although under different management, is still standing strong on Cartelli Street in Brooklyn and still filled with handmade treasures spanning a variety of categories. I actually popped by there the other day and walked out with a few, you guessed it, greeting cards. So now we'd like to welcome you to the Paper Plane Cocktail Hour and our fabulous guests, Jocelyn and Roland. Cheers!
Cheers, and welcome,
Cheers.
Guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, clink.
Thank you so much for having us. We're thrilled to be here.
I was
Welcome,
waiting
guys.
for the sound effects guy, and he didn't show up.
Well, we actually edit that in, but yours was fantastic.
Okay, so then that other guy is fired.
Yes.
That other guy is listening right now.
All right, back to our regularly scheduled questions. One thing that I have always loved about our business is that there are so many family-oriented brands. Over the years, I've worked with brands with principals who are mothers and daughters, sister acts, sisters and brothers, husbands and wives, entire families. To me, it adds a really neat element to getting acquainted with the new brand at trade shows, because you're not only seeing a brand, you're getting a glimpse into a family dynamic, as well as a business model that you just don't see that much more, unfortunately. So I have to ask you something I've always wondered. How did you come about to make the leap? Did you stay at Artery or just quit everything and jump right in?
Oh, well, it happened basically because of the Artery. So Brooklyn Artery was a gift shop that I owned with another partner for 8 years here in Brooklyn, and tiny little store, right? It's New York City. So we had 450 square feet. And in that space, we had 4 48 pocket card spinners. We sold so many cards. We just couldn't keep them full. And Roland and I were coming home from the store one night, and I was saying, oh my God, the spinners are empty. I got to order more cards. And he says, we should start a card line. And I said, okay. And so we did.
Well, see,
that was it. It was
sorry to interrupt you. This goes to show just how intelligent I am. is I had worked for 10 years in the greeting card industry in Toronto. I worked for a company called Paper Eclipse, which is one of the largest wholesalers and rep groups for stationery in Canada.
Oh,
So
sure.
I worked for 10 years before, moving to the US. And, we kept going through this whole thing about, how are we going to get more greeting cards? How are we going to get more greeting cards? And then one day I realized, you know what? I used to work for a greeting card company.
We actually know how this works.
We know this business, actually.
And that was it. So we started up the line, and, we had the Artery as our testing ground. So we got that amazing experience of getting to stand in the store, like you were saying, and watching people crack up, standing at the spinners going, look at this one, look at this one. And we realized,
what a test market.
We are on to something wonderful. And so I guess about a year after that, we started wholesaling.
Wow.
And I was still running the Artery. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You sound like me, not to be content with only doing one thing.
Oh, no. 2 companies and a teenager. And, why not? Yeah.
So now that you've, had this brand for a few years, do you think that running this brand together has changed your relationship with each other, or how you understand each other?
I doubt that there's I don't know that we have the capacity to surprise each other anymore, because we just pull it out all the time.
Would you stop breathing that way?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
drives me insane.
We have a new card coming out that says a new design for 2021. As a couple, we like to play this wonderful game called Why Are You Doing It That Way? And there are no winners.
There are no winners.
But no, we have a blast. I mean, we just get to hang out with each other all the time and crack ourselves up endlessly.
Like this is no bull right here. This is what we're like all the time. For real.
No doubt. I have no doubt.
Yeah. It's really fantastic, actually.
Even when things get at times testy and difficult because we're under a lot of stress, the testiness or the snippiness might last for 30 seconds at most, and then we're just right back to this again.
Yeah.
Right. You can laugh your way out of it. Well, you already are dealing with a teenager. So to me, I have a 14-year-old.
If you don't have a sense of humor, you're doomed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like if you can't immediately laugh something off, forget it.
Right. And if anything else, I guess it's just been that much more of an affirmation of the philosophy of, if you can't laugh at it, then what's the point?
Right.
Very true.
Right.
Yeah.
Living your brand.
Absolutely.
The funniness, the sweetness, the absurdity, the darkness, all of it.
So my next question to you, so many companies have kind of woven giving back into their mission over the past year or so. It's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing to watch. It's become somewhat trendy, which is good. But that idea was pretty much always woven into Ümlaut Brooklyn. And so as a way to give thanks for being able to run your own creative company, every purchase of your product funds your Ümlaut Brooklyn Young Artist Grant, started as a way to help creative kids in high schools to fund either some additional extracurricular education or to help buy supplies that might otherwise have been out of reach. Can you share how it's played out so far?
It's been a really amazing experience.
Yeah, it's been
honestly.
wonderful.
So we work with a smaller high school here in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn High School of the Arts, which is a truly wonderful art school, really emerging as...
oh my God, the work that these kids do is staggering.
Yeah. So then, and it's, they do fine arts, they do music, theater, dance. It's quite something. And so the students that we have met so far, have completely blown us away. The talent, the level of talent of some of these recipients is incredible. And one of them, who's a painter, when we have our sort of award ceremony, we get to meet them all, which is really nice. And she took out her phone and she showed me this Google Doc that she keeps on her phone. That's a list of all of the paintings that she wants to do. And she wanted to work in really large scale. And I mean, seriously enormous canvases, and she didn't have the funds to do it. And she said to me, these are the first 5 paintings that I'm going to be able to do now with this money. And she's working, her canvases are now like 6 by 7. They're just phenomenal.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the
and
students,
even into dance,
Mhm.
there's a couple of incredible dancers that, just through their circumstances, couldn't afford new tap shoes
well, toe shoes and
or
tap shoes
tap
are,
shoes and toe shoes.
they're-
They're a fortune, and you go through them
They
like
are.
crazy.
yeah.
Right.
You
And,
So-
and I think more than anything else too, seeing that, I mean, we know this as we were those kids back in high school. We were both art students, having somebody reach out and say, I completely support what you're doing, and I believe that it's a legitimate life choice, is utterly life-changing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we were fortunate to have the sort of parents who felt that way about what we were doing, but not everybody does. So I think for these kids, especially, and sometimes it's even more meaningful when it's somebody outside of your immediate circle who looks at you and says, you're a talented person. Guess what? You can keep going and you can make a life at this.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And it's rewarding to see it come to light. I mean, how many things do we do that it takes years and years to see any results? Like you do this and, 6 months later, she's showing you her huge canvas or,
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So we feel happy and honored to be able to be part of it.
Oh, I am sure that your support is actually propelling them even more to produce even more. So,
Well, we
Well-
hope that they feel that it has given them a legitimacy that they might not have had otherwise. I just wish that we could do more, honestly. I
Sure,
really do. I wish that we could do more.
Well, in a way you sort of are because you didn't stop there and you came up with a template program for other companies wanting to give away grants. So, I mean, you obviously put all this work into establishing, and now you're letting others sort of benefit from it as well. Can you tell me a little bit about this template program?
Yeah. Jocelyn's the one for that, and it's starting to work, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's actually one of our stores is now, as soon as the schools are back open, she's going to be working with her local high school to start one. So it's dead simple. Honestly, we did the research to figure out, we wanted to make sure that the money could come to the kids tax-free. And so we found that if we donated the money directly to the school, then the school can gift it to the kids as a grant. We made a Google Doc, very simple Google Doc for the kids internally in the school to submit what they wanted to use the grant money for, and establish that it would be their teachers who were choosing the recipients, not us, because it's not up to us to judge them. The teachers know who they are. They know their talents. They know their strengths. They know their life situations. It's honestly, it's that simple.
That's amazing.
It's
That's
incredibly simple. So anybody who wants to do this, I can have a 15-minute phone conversation with them and they'll literally be ready to go.
well,
wow.
that's great. Maybe even though we were going to say this at the end, why don't you say how we can reach out to you?
Oh, you can just email us at umlautbrooklyn@gmail.com if you can spell umlaut.
UMLAUT.
Yeah.
And you'll learn something new.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
And I'll even give you a little inside look into what an umlaut actually is.
Well, my last name had the, we
You
went
would
with
have
the
had
E. Yeah,
Mhm.
Lowenberg, could have been Löwenberg. We went with the LOE instead of the umlaut O.
Mhm.
Right.
Well, a little bit of tidbit information there. The program sounds great. The grant program, giving back, helping, giving support to others and people in need. There's such a need to support and just really give care to our fellow humans. And so
Absolutely.
amazing.
And especially kids, because I'm not a huge fan of the educational system, because I think that it tends to try to slot people into a very narrow channel. And having a creative child And having, like we said, having been that kid, we feel that especially the graduates who are going to be coming out of school in the next 10 years, the world of work that they're going to be entering is so different than what we did. So why we would try to continue to have them follow the pattern that we did makes no sense to me at all. So we want them to have the tools and the skills and the confidence to be able to go and create whatever they want to create.
Absolutely. And it's just a gift to be able to process everything they're going through. It's creative types, I mean, this is hard as an adult to live through a pandemic. I can only imagine as a teenager when you're, sort of coming of age, as well as, you're dealing with a lot. So, how better to process it than through, something creative.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive into the creative process a little bit on your side. Okay. That was a real smooth segue, I think. Guys.
That was good.
We planned that.
Wow.
I know that you're both motivated by the connections you're creating between people, obviously. You tap into all of our emotions in very different ways, and you often you say what we're thinking and want to say, and as I mentioned before, literally watch people crack up as they're reading your cards. Your statement retro and vintage images are the perfect vehicle for sending these very clever expressions. So why don't you share with us how you landed on that imagery?
It's a tad complex and a bit long because we both have very different stories, but I guess Jocelyn, you go first.
Well, I as an artist, I am completely entranced with design, and Art Deco design in particular. I think was one of the first things that really lit me up. Art Deco and Art Nouveau design, the flow of it, the beauty of it, the balance of it, the colors of it. And I also worked in the vintage industry for a number of years, both in front of the camera and behind the camera. So the photography from earlier days has a drama to it that is absolutely stunning in so many cases. And then the other thing about it is that it reminds us, the vintage images remind us that in a lot of ways, we're really not that different. Styles change, maybe photographs are color now, maybe our clothing has changed a certain amount, but there's a universality to us as a people that I think that it's nice to kind of harken back to the images from before, because we can really relate to them in a lot of ways. Or they're so unrelatable that it becomes absurd. And that's where we get that great creative tension between what we're showing and what we're saying.
My turn.
I'm gonna add some stuff. And now over to you.
And now over.
Take it from here.
Take it away, Roland.
Yeah, take it away. Well, in my case, it's a tad convoluted. I was a professional dancer, choreographer, art director for over 20 years for film, television, theater. And I primarily, what I really enjoyed doing was the Broadway musical theater type of work, 42nd Street and Guys and Dolls and this type of era look. I would get, for months submersed in this. At the same time, I have always, since a child, had an affinity for old Hollywood.
Yeah, old Hollywood movies.
When they say when movie stars were real movie stars.
Right.
You get that vibe. You definitely get that vibe from
the Clark Gables, the Cary Grants, and the Lauren Bacalls and the Rita Hayworths and all of that. At the same time, just having this passion about that period of architecture.
Yeah, and the design was just
design and clothing. Oh my God, Joan Crawford in her 20s when she was a flapper girl. Right. I was born in the wrong era, hands down. So, this is a big part of it. The affinity for that beauty, that aesthetic, that style, that look if you can find that and match it with something so totally absurd.
Right. You know, we have an affinity for that.
And at times offensive.
Yeah.
And if it's offensive, all the better.
All the better.
Even better. Well, you know, we were talking about that creative tension. To me, I think the closest other profession to designing greeting cards is cartooning.
Really?
Because you have one image, one line.
Sure.
You know, I mean, like a single panel style.
Yeah.
Cartoon,
Sure.
where it's got to hit you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's even better that the visual hits you first, and then you read it, and there's a disconnect or a tension or an unexpected twist to it that just brings the house down. And that's,
You know, and another thing that I think should be mentioned, which we normally do in conversation, which you normally bring up, is the fact that we're both Canadians.
so we have a pretty zany sense of humor.
You know, we're both from Toronto.
Well,
So-
now that just explains everything.
The Canadian sense of humor
Now I get it.
Yeah,
is very much like the British sense of humor.
it is. You know,
Right?
it's about setting yourself up. It's
Yeah,
about
so
absurdity.
taking the piss out of yourself
Yeah.
and other people. You know, like we grow up on Monty Python, and which most people in the U.S. know, but
Right.
then other things like Derek and Clive and the two Ronnies and Fry and Laurie and whatnot. Like we're weaned on the insanity of British humor.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
that gives us also not a totally different, but a very different outlook in our sense of humor.
Right.
In your messaging that comes out. What I really like is that you both have different history and connection to the imagery, which has brought you to the same style of imagery, and yet your messaging, your humor is very similar. Obviously, you've
Right.
made mention of it before, but give us a little more a little more of a deeper dive into that creative genius of how you match the messaging to the image, and do you fight over it?
No, we don't. Actually, no.
Creative.
Do-
It's a lie.
Do we fight over it? No. I think, you know, it's interesting. We tend to work separately. So we have, you know, we've got a giant file of images that we love that we just keep going. And we also have, you know, documents of, you know, pages of, oh, this line, that line, I love this. This would be so great, but I need the image for it, or I have the image and I have the line for it. And sometimes that can even take a couple of years where you go, oh God, I finally have the image for this, or I finally have the line for that.
Oh, we have cards that have been on the back burner for years.
Yeah.
They're brilliant. They're perfect. They're ready.
Well, we think they're brilliant.
Well, yeah, we know they're brilliant, but we just haven't found the right background, just the right saying. It's just a matter of tweaking it, and that can go on for a couple of years until we just both find it and go, oh yeah, this is it.
That's it.
That
Right.
makes
And
sense. You have a lot of content you're holding on to, and then it'll
we do.
evolve for you, and you'll know it.
Yep. And then we also work on things separately, and then we'll show each other, and one of us will say like, oh no, you need to edit, it needs to be this, or oh, I have a background that you can use, you know, for that. So it's very, very collaborative.
Right.
That's awesome.
Although we do work very independently, and
Yeah.
and I always make the analogy, and it's probably not a good analogy,
But do it anyway.
but I will do it anyway. As bad as it is that I always said we're like the Lennon and McCartney of greeting cards,
I
right?
don't want to be either one.
Who's who?
Because simply from the standpoint that aside from when they were kids and the Beatles first started, once they really got successful, they never wrote a song together.
Huh.
Everything was labeled as Lennon and McCartney, but they never wrote a song together.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like the Beatles and you know the Beatles, you can hear which one is a McCartney song and which one is
Sure.
a Lennon song.
But
Yeah.
I don't think
Right.
There's the same.
But what they
distinction
did
with us.
was they would always bring it in a rough form and say, what do you think about this? I need trouble with the middle section. The intro isn't quite right.
Mhm.
So they would tweak each other's material to turn it into the final product.
Right. That's what I always heard that one was left-handed and one was right-handed. And that was really helpful for songwriting because they were like, it was something about like working off the
Different
opposite
sides
of
of
the
frame.
other and how they would
Yeah.
hold things.
Well, I
and-
know Paul is left-handed,
Left-handed,
but
so
I'd
there
never
you go.
heard that.
How
Yeah.
about you guys? Is anybody a righty lefty here?
No.
I've always sort of saw us more as somewhat of a cross between, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, and Abbott and Costello.
I love it. I love it.
It
It's
really is.
somewhere in
Yeah,
the middle.
yeah. You got the
There's the glamour and the
you
elegance.
got the glamour of Fred and Ginger and the idiocy of Abbott and Costello.
and then a big pratfall, because it makes people laugh and it's funny.
Have you guys ever had any kind of backlash from any of your statements? Have you had anybody ever reach out to you and say, "Oh my God"?
No,
Nope,
absolutely
nope,
not.
nope, not at all. Not
Yeah.
at all.
Nor should they.
Well, I don't know. Have you heard something that we don't?
Yeah,
No,
we don't know. No.
I mean, look, your audience knows what they're getting. Like
Oh, you mean about the swearing, perhaps?
Oh,
yes,
about the
about the
F-bomb.
naughty words and
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Can we clarify something,
yeah,
please?
yeah.
Please.
While we do have swear words on our cards, you could, with absolutely no effort at all, fill a 48 or 56 pocket spinner full of umlaut without having any swear words on them. But
We have now over 300 cart designs, plus another 250, 260 other designs in various other product.
right.
And I would say out of the 300 plus cards, let's be generous and
Mhm.
let's say 20 of them have got dirty words,
Yeah.
right?
But those are the ones that seem to
Right.
stick in
The
people's minds.
the 280 other ones are nice and fine and right. Well, it depends what kind of family you're in. But
I need that other card deck.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's what sometimes people think of. Oh, umlaut, they're the dirty card line. No,
Not at all.
not at all.
I think that we've had this experience a lot. So we're at a trade show and somebody comes into the booth and they're looking and they start laughing and
Yeah.
they're cracking up and they say, "Oh my God, I love your cards so much, but I can't have swear words in my store." And we say, "Oh, what about this one?" And they say, "Oh, I like that. Well, how about this one? And how about this one? And how about that one?" And then they end up
buying a 48 or 56 pocket spinner,
and
it's fine and it's all good for the store. It's just you don't buy those 20 or 30 cards that have F-bombs.
Exactly.
so you guys just have a really naughty reputation and it
And
seems to
that's
We
precede you.
do. We do.
Well, you're probably the ones that everybody wants to go out with after market for sure. So
absolutely.
come August, I think we're all getting together for sure.
Like we're keeping our language in check for what we're doing
Well,
right
you
here,
are.
and I am.
Yeah.
But it's what happens in our booths at the trade shows is pretty outrageous sometimes.
It's not necessarily PG, but
You
it's
know.
fun and
I
people
have no
enjoy it.
doubt.
But
Well,
yeah.
that's another great segue here because we've all experienced the events of this last year, and we've just entered into 2021. And
Yay.
How's it going?
Yay! And as we look back, we can see how we've made changes to our lives, both personally and professionally.
Mhm.
Digital fatigue set in, and the need for socialization is more important than ever.
Mhm.
COVID has definitely put a spotlight on the way we communicate, and we can see the benefits in the stationery sector that have presented themselves over this past year, and the market is forecasted to continue to grow. So along with cards and letters, journaling has become a major pastime over the past few months, and then there's a surge back to paper calendars as well.
Mhm.
How has COVID changed the way you see stationery?
Ooh.
I don't know. I would say that it hasn't changed how I see stationery. It has affirmed how I have always seen stationery.
Oh, that's a good way to put. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Very clever. I like that.
Mhm.
Isn't that smart?
We
She's
do.
smart.
We agree.
I'm not that smart.
Neither am I.
Neither are you, Sarah.
Oh my God.
Well, that's why we're asking Jocelyn.
Yeah.
That's why we're
There
talking
you
to
go.
Jocelyn.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so let me- yeah.
Okay, I'm leaving now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really honestly feel that way. And here's a great little story that will maybe make you feel the same way. So I have a 16-year-old who is an avid letter writer. And he and his friends, even pre-COVID, would send each other packages, these amazing, they use the sort of like the big padded envelopes with cards and letters and homemade stickers and tapes and, you know, all sorts of different things. And then the outsides of these packages are so beautiful. I wish that I had been taking pictures of them all, but I didn't. But I remember taking one to the post office, and I was at some post office in Midtown Manhattan, and I went in, and the woman whose kiosk I went to picked up the package and said, "Oh my goodness, this is the most beautiful package I have seen in the last, I don't know how many years. Is this you?" I said, "No, this is my kid sending it to one of his friends." And she said, "Okay, well, that gives me hope for the future, because if the 15 and 16-year-olds are sending letters, that just means that everything's going to keep going as it should." And I honestly feel the same way, because I've always been a letter writer. I still have letters that friends sent to me when I was in high school, you know?
Yep.
So I think it's really important.
Well, let me ask you, Roland, you kind of made mention to it before when you said that you have people that would come into your booth and they would say they'd crack up at your cards, but then they couldn't purchase a card with a swear word. I feel like we're all getting very acclimated to a little bit of more colorful language. Are you seeing any sort of like new trends bubbling up with acceptance of language, or even just regionally, anything that you might have insight to for like what 2021 might be presenting us?
Well, you know, that's a great question, and it's difficult to tell. As far as trends for 2021, we see the paper continuing to grow. We had such a crazy Christmas, you would not believe it. Like, we were like running on fumes.
Wow.
You know,
Good.
getting Christmas done.
Good.
And pulling together our 2021 catalog and samples and all of that. I think it's just going to keep continuing. As far as let's call it salty language.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Salty and spicy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to say any dirty words here, so you don't have to bleep me out during the. Is that well? Here's an example. We had shortly a couple of months after COVID first started, and everything went into lockdown, and everything went crazy, and the whole country was losing its mind.
We all thought it. We all knew what you thought.
The word salty didn't fit.
Yeah. Is one of our stores, one of our customers, fabulous long-term customer, we love her, contacted us to say, "Do you have any condolence cards that are Ümlaut style?"
Right. And funny, like not funny condolence card.
But like, and we didn't. We didn't. So this was probably like in April.
Right.
You know, and so we were in the process of thinking we have to get our Christmas catalog together. Are we even going to do a Christmas catalog? You know, but we took a gamble and we did a massive Christmas release, bigger than we've ever done before, and it paid off. Like, it just went crazy. And at the same time, we decided, let's put out a handful of new designs.
But like empathy cards.
Yeah, and a handful of new empathy, not so much condolence, but empathy cards that were very Ümlaut oriented.
Ümlaut style. Well, hence the one that
the one that you were showing the other,
the universe.
Right? The universe card. That's one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
that comes from that group.
And these cards have sold like insanity.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, we definitely hit a nerve doing dirty empathy cards.
Salty empathy cards. Right. And it's that, you know what it is? It's bringing that sort of what we were talking about earlier, that British humor, that sense of the absurd, you know. And I think it struck a nerve because people thought, yes, it's terrible. Yes, this sucks. But, you know, can we find a way to laugh at it?
Yes. Yeah. You know what? Actually, we can say this. We can say it.
Yeah.
You can send it in a card.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean,
I think that may be the continuation for 2021. Who knows? I think it's still going to continue and keep rolling and be very positive for the industry.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think, you know, I mean, empathy started happening a couple of years ago, and with the shift of most card buyer, you know, with the baby boomer to millennial shift of most card users becoming millennials as opposed to baby boomers, you know, they want an authenticity. They, you know, they don't want syrup and flowers and rhyming couplets, you know.
No.
And the more you can do that, and the more you can speak to your audience authentically, who already gets you and is looking, you know, to communicate with their friends in that vein, so to speak. Like, that's great. I'm glad you guys did that. And think of all the great cards that went out, you know, this holiday season.
That's
you know, the thrilling thing.
That's what we love the most is to think about all of these I don't know how to put it, like the effort empathy and the effort Christmas cards, but like not negative, happy, funny.
It is joyful,
but with a
negative.
Not mean negative. You know, okay, so there's some dirty words or whatnot, and it's like, yes, you're saying what you really want to say, and it's funny.
Right. Exactly. Like, well, you know, my mom sent her sister one of our
her
birthday that just, you know, it said in dog years you're dead.
In dog years you're dead.
And it was like her sister's 83rd birthday or something. And there was a great discussion on Facebook amongst the cousins of like, oh my God, my mom was really shocked. But, you know,
you almost killed her.
I know. It felt really awful, but yeah. But no, you know, the authenticity is absolutely the whole point of it. And you know, we get these amazing messages from customers saying,
"Oh my God,
you say what I wish I could say out loud. Thank you for finding the right words for those of us who don't know how to actually say it."
You know, the emails and texts and messaging really and whatnot we receive from our customers all around the world that thank us for what we're doing.
It's just
amazing. It's
amazing.
Just astounding. Like it literally brings tears to my eyes sometimes, like how grateful people are for what we're doing.
We have a customer who writes and always signs herself as an Ümlaut hoarder.
You guys are like salty card therapists.
Well, no, I was about to say, do you remember the Seinfeld episode with Elaine?
And
they canceled the sponges that she was using, right?
Yes.
So she had to say if she was going to be with a guy, whether he was sponge worthy.
Are you Ümlaut worthy?
Right. Are you Ümlaut worthy?
Yeah.
Well, you guys have definitely made it so much more accessible for people to actually communicate in that way. So I have no doubt that as 2021 continues, you're going to continue to see larger and larger orders because it's becoming more of an accepted norm where it wasn't to be able to communicate in that very salty, colorful way. And you guys do it just.
But let's remember.
But again, most of it's not.
Most
salty.
of it isn't. It's something that we're known for, but it's the reality of it is it's like maybe 10% of what we do. But
okay, so I think you've made it clear to our listeners that I'm buying that 10%.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? And all of our stores are buying that 10% as well.
Right.
But isn't it funny? Like I imagine, like say you went to a comedy show, you went to some stand-up show. It was an hour and a half, some comedian doing his bit, and you laughed your ass off all throughout the show. It was an hour and a half, and maybe for 10 minutes. They were swearing and doing truly filthy things for 10 minutes. You'd walk out of that show going, that was the filthiest show I'd ever seen. But
I love it.
10 minutes. It was only 10 minutes out of an hour and a half.
Right. Well, here's the thing. If you consider the word shit to be salty, I don't know, I guess some people do. Our card, women getting shit done.
You know that, Sarah, women getting shit done.
Right.
Cannot ever keep it in stock, and I think that now to me, that is one of the most empowering cards that we have because it's the way that you recognize to your friend, to your mother, to your sister, to your coworker, how truly extraordinary they are. That's what that card does.
Yeah. And we all need that. We really do.
It's total affirmation.
Yeah.
Absolutely affirmation. Oh my God, this has been so amazing talking with you both. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you need to share or want to share?
Well,
we talked about a lot. You guys have 26 new designs coming out.
Yeah, we do.
We'll be loading them up onto all of our various websites.
Within the next day or two.
Yeah.
We're going to get tests for our catalogs coming in. We'll be sending out all of the samples and catalogs to all of our reps and showrooms.
Everything's
next week.
happening
It's all happening a little bit later. Normally, this is all done before Christmas, but
life was bananas. Life has been totally bananas.
Yeah.
But
what's also nice is that when this airs, it will already be up. So there you go.
You've already done all that work.
You've already done it.
You're listening to this.
But I forgot. This is something that I was thinking about earlier. Is that if we're talking about things that are like spicy, right? It doesn't necessarily have to have swear words.
Oh God,
in it, right?
No. Absolutely
Because I guess sometimes we cross that line in a sentiment that people have thought or people have laughed at or people have said, cards that sell very well. They don't say anything.
They imply.
Such as we've got one card where there's two women, and one of them is saying, "I didn't sleep with my husband until after we were married. What about you?" And the reply is, "I don't know. What's your husband's name?"
That's awesome.
Right?
So there you go. That's the perfect card to send to your friends for their anniversary.
Oh my God, it's an anniversary card.
And it might be their last anniversary.
Oh my gosh, you guys are hysterical. This has been just amazing. We could probably talk for hours, but we can't. We will do this on another day for sure.
Absolutely.
It's so lovely to see you both.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're broadcasting this, they won't see us, but
we're seeing,
but we get to see you.
We get to, and it's been fabulous.
It's just been so wonderful.
It's been a real treat, and you're just making me remember how much fun it was always to visit your booth. I'll be by your booth at Digital Market later this month, and fingers crossed in August.
Absolutely,
Let's hope it's going to be, when we do finally get to see each other, it's going to be just endlessly amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It'll be a long time coming, and we will be so happy to see you.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah and I both find you endlessly amazing too. So it has been such a pleasure.
Thank you
Wow.
so much for asking us to do this.
Oh,
Absolutely.
we're honored. We are. You know, it's absolutely wonderful. We thank you so much.
Well, cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Yeah. Oh, clink. The sound guy's tired.
Oh,
Right?
right.
Has the sound guy, he's already packed his box and he's out the door.
He's getting ready for his exit interview and he's not happy.
Oh,
We have an empathy card you can send.
oh yeah. Just wait for our new empathy line coming soon.
Okay, well, on that
No,
note,
not empathy. No.
Downsizing.
No.
it never ends.
It never
All right,
ends.
everybody, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
we will talk and see each other soon.
We will.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, that was fun. Jocelyn and Roland, thank you again for joining us for Chat and Cocktails. Amy, what are you drinking today?
Well, I have completely become a Paper Plane fan. If you're not a huge whiskey fan, this cocktail sort of masks that a bit. It's like tart and it's warm. And I also have to admit, I really like using my cocktail shaker again because it's been sitting idle for a while. So I will be sipping on one and making my tiny paper airplane when this airs. How about you?
I am planning to also have a real, actual Paper Planes cocktail. Wow. And for anyone out listening, don't forget to post Instagram pics of your paper plane using the hashtags the Paper Plane Podcast and Paper Plane Cocktail Hour. And since I'm talking about what I'm drinking before I actually drink it, I'll have to share how everything went down in our February show, which is scheduled for Thursday, February 11th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss out. And Amy, where can our listeners find you in the meantime?
Oh, you guys can find me on Instagram at amy.atnynow, LinkedIn, or just email me at work, amy.lowenberg@emeraldx.com. I always want to highlight people on my New York Now Spotlight podcast and feature on my Instagram store tours. And always available to help connect you to new and needed resources and to answer any of your New York Now market questions.
And probably the best place to connect with me is at thepapernerd.com. You can see more fabulous stationery coverage, check out my podcast, The Paper Fold, and also access Stationery Trends, the industry's award-winning design-driven trade quarterly as well. I have been covering the stationery and gift markets for over 20 years now, and it's always a pleasure to learn more about makers and spotlight their work, whether it's in a publication, a blog, or a podcast. So if you want to connect, I'd love to hear from you.
So please don't hesitate to reach out to either of us with your comments, questions, feedback, suggestions for guests, or really just to say hi and introduce yourself. Thank you so much for joining us. Cheers.
Cheers.